strategy during a pandemic. Let me introduce you today's speaker from Japan, Mr. Yukio Tойошима, the representative of JICA in Uzbekistan, who has about 40 years experience at Hitachi, and who worked there as a top manager at various positions. Since May 2019, Mr. Tойошиma has been working as a teacher at Republican Graduate School of Business and Management at the Department of Business Administration. And I, Азиза Галиудинова, will be assisting Mr. Tойошима during today's webinar. Добрый день, дорогие участники! Мы рады приветствовать вас на вебинаре, посвященной теме «Стратегия корпораций во время пандемии». Позвольте представить вам сегодняшнего докладчика. Господин Юкио Тойошима, представитель JICA в Узбекистане, имеющий почти 40-летний опыт работы в компании Hitachi и проработавшего там в качестве топ-менеджера на различных позициях. С мая 2019 года господин Тойошима работает преподавателем в Республиканской высшей школе бизнеса и управления на кафедре управления бизнесом. И я, Азиза Галиудинова, буду сегодня ассистировать господину Тойошима во время данного вебинара. First of all, let me provide you with some instructions on how you can participate during the webinar. Below on your screens, you can find three main buttons. First, on the left, there is a button, Raise Your Hands. You can click on this button if you have any questions during the webinar. Or you can use another option and write your question in Q&A button, question and answers button. Для начала позвольте ознакомить вас с быстрой инструкцией на то, как участвовать в данном вебинаре. Ниже на ваших экранах вы можете найти три основные кнопки, которыми вы можете воспользоваться во время вебинара. Слева, снизу вы можете увидеть кнопку «Поднять руку», если у вас есть какие-то вопросы во время лекции, вы можете спокойно нажать эту кнопку, или же вы можете воспользоваться кнопкой Q&A, Questions and Answers, это вопросы и ответы, и напрямую писать ваш вопрос. Спасибо. Mr. Tойошима, you may start.
Okay, thank you for your kind introduction, Aziza. My name is Toyoshima, and I believe that you can see my CV on the screen here. And as Aziza mentioned, that I've been working for only one company. That scenario would be quite popular among the Japanese people today in Japan. Usually that after fresh from graduation of the university, we usually start to work only one company during the life. So I'm not the exception. So I joined Hitachi in 1980, and I think that one of my unique experience here is that I've been working for, overseas strategies business under Hitachi group of the companies. And they look at the year of 2005, I was head of Siam Hitachi Elevator in Thailand. And that company was acquired by Hitachi. And I was kind of negotiation team. And after the completion of the M&A, I was sent to Bangkok to be a head of joint venture. And also I had an opportunity to be stationed in Singapore to be heading that Hitachi regional headquarters, which covers all over Asia. And also another unique experience is that 2015, after the long and tough negotiation with the American company Johnson Control, we set up the joint venture in Japan. And I was vice president to that company and engaged in that also strategy and Southeast Asia business development. And I also studied in a business school in Boston during my young days. So those are the outlines of my personal history. And let's go to Aziza, we don't need that translation here, right?
I think no, there was это было краткое содержание резюме господина Тойошимы. Наверное, всем все понятно. Если есть вопросы, пожалуйста, задавайте.
Okay, let's go to my text. Okay, the first page shows that contents of the lecture today, and which consists of the mainly 4 items, and which is quite same as the announcement board, which you are provided before. And through those 4 items, you may found that firstly that if something negative happens, like a natural disaster, epidemic, and or whatever happens, our business easily stop. So this is a first headache which we may face. And second issue would be our company may not have much flexibility
Excuse me,
adjust ourselves to that change of the circumstance.
Mr.
By the way, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you please, did you open your slides? We can't see your slides. We can only see your screen.
Wow. Let me do once again.
Yes, please.
What about now?
No, we can't see it. I would like to ask you to stop the share screen and then restart it.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes, great.
Okay, good.
You may continue.
So that I told you that second headache would be we don't have much flexibilities. And the third issue is that our existing business might be very, very weak when the crisis is coming. And last and the fourth item is that our company, our business may not be stable if we look at the long term, long-sighted. And someone may understand that who would be at the stakeholders? There are several numbers of the stakeholders around the company. Who would be as stakeholders usually?
This is a question to the audiences, I guess, right?
Yes, yes.
Вопрос был, кто может быть заинтересованными лицами?
We have our customers, right? We have our banks. We have suppliers. Who else we have?
У нас есть покупатели, у нас есть поставщики, и кто еще? Сейчас, секунду. There are answers: government, publics, employees.
Yeah, and you may also understand that we have, how to say, the people who may have a strong influence, which is the shareholders, right? Maybe the public, you may just mention, may include that the shareholders, but the shareholders have a, how to say, heavy right, big right to say many things to the company as a shareholders. Without shareholders, we may not be able to set up the company at the beginning. And somebody may understand that what the shareholders want most, what they are most, how to say, what they like most, what do they expect most in terms of our company's operation?
So there are comments like stakeholders, community, and regarding the second question. So to gain profit, more profit.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
answer for the second question. And dividends.
Yeah, right. If as far as the company make a profit, shareholder would be so happy because they can expect a dividend from such profit. But can you also get something that those shareholders would like to get the dividend in a short period of time or a long time ahead?
Depending on shareholders.
Depending shareholders. How about you? One who
It
have
depends on
answered.
agreement, they say also. It depends on agreement on shareholders.
Agreement. Now that I don't have much knowledge about the companies in Uzbekistan, but what's going on in countries like USA, Europe, and maybe slightly somewhere in China? Maybe shareholders who love to enjoy being that the shareholders, who surely love to get the dividend as much as possible, since they knew that 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, nobody knows how the company would be. So that they would like to get the return as early as possible. That's safer, right?
Yeah, there is a comment from participant, Mr. Toyoshima. Short-term shareholders look for immediate gain.
Yeah. So that now that issue comes, from the management point of view, we should agree with that type of shareholders who want to get returned at the dividend as early as possible. Is that also good for that future growth of the company or not? So that's one of the key issues which we're gonna see today. And let me go to the next slide. Okay, this chart shows that how those three regions, USA, EU, Japan, having the difficulties after the corona issues. Look at the left-hand side, GDP. I'm just listed up GDP, unemployment, and rescue plan by the government. Look at the USA, April to June this year. It's still a forecasting, but it's almost minus 40%. EU, minus 30%. Japan, minus 20%. Maybe those negative percentage is at the worst in the history. Even worse than Lehman finance crisis. So let's move to the unemployment. USA, 15 to 20%. EU, just now 7.4%. So I don't know that, I don't get the figures afterwards. So I put just a question mark, but I'm sure that it's gonna be much over the 10%. And Japan, we are now having the 2.5%, but it is expected to increase almost 4%. So this is also big negative impact to the economies of those big countries. And looking at the rescue plan means that how much money the government already decided to share to the companies, public, and people. USA, who may decided that the biggest amount of the money, $3 to $4 trillion, and it will be covered 15 to 20% of total GDP in USA. And the EU and Japan have the same amount, $1 trillion. So those are what the government decided as of today. Maybe tomorrow they may have to increase. We don't know yet. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, let's go next.
Yes, there is a question by Big Zot.
Алло, слышно меня?
Да.
У меня такой вопрос. Вот мистер Тойошима показывает европейские страны, то есть получается снижение валового внутреннего продукта, да, ВВП, и увеличение безработицы, как я понял, да? И такой вопрос. Есть ли у него информация по поводу азиатских стран? Как у них дела идут? Потому что вот этот весь процесс начался именно с азиатских стран. Какие были последствия на сегодняшний день, если можно?
Mr. Tойошима, let me tell this question in English.
Mm-hmm.
So you provided us with a statistic in USA, European Union, and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have any information and statistic about some Asian countries? For example, I don't know, Malaysia maybe, or some others. And what are the consequences for these countries?
I try to find out any data related to those regions, Asia, but unfortunately I couldn't find out yet. What I am thinking is that maybe the government is still having the process of decisions, how much money they're going to spend for rescue. And usually that the government of those ASEAN countries may not be so quick to to collect the information about the unemployment and the GDP. Especially GDP here is at the, how to say, expectation. And even USA, EU, Japan have that already result of GDP between January to March. And this is a very, very difficult part. So that I think I need some more time to get those information. I think I will let you know once I got those data.
There is one more interesting question from the chat I can see. Do you have formula to how to calculate exactly with the GDP, unemployment, and rescue plan? Or this is just an information that you got and that's it? Can it be calculated and forecasted or, and gathered as a data?
I collected those information from the many different newspapers and magazines. So that some of the data shows that it's already fact in the past. The others may show that expectation and so on. Is it clear?
I think yes. Are there any questions? Есть ли вопросы еще? I think you may continue.
Okay, let's go to next page.
There is a question.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, I just had a question in particular about the China, because I'm sure there should be some data related to the Chinese expectations on the GDP, plunge in the GDP growth and in trade. I've just read that they've encountered a 10 plunge in trade. However, any other indicators that we have so far for China?
China is in a sense, most difficult part to collect the right information, as you can imagine. And but as far as I look at the newspapers and financial data and so on from the internet or somewhere, and what I was looking at so far is that the latest GDP was showing the 6.2 or 3, right? But it was not the result of the corona. So that I'm just waiting for that next timing when the Chinese government can disclose the GDP, unemployment, or blah, blah, blah. But one of the opinions which I saw somewhere in the newspaper is that maybe the end of the corona issues completed, the GDP for this year might be half, 50% of the what they are expecting at the beginning of this year, which means it's around 3% or so.
Okay, all right.
I think it's not, I think it's a somehow reasonable ratio.
Okay, all right. Well, yes, you would expect it to be a great plunge because they trade with a lot of the world, and since globally there is a huge recession, obviously they should be experiencing a plunge in GDP and trade. Okay, thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you for your question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shall I go next?
Yes, please.
Oh. So that now the big question is coming to us. What will be changed in operation, and also management itself. So that this page shows that major 4 issues which we need to clarify the direction from now on. And of course, we need to something to be desired, to be improved, to be developed from what we did before in the history. And the first item is that co-creation for further growth. And we are somehow facing a lot of and tougher competition in the market. And we are looking at how our competitors doing a business. And we are trying to find out that what their strategies and so on. So everybody admit that all of us are compete each other. But from now on, we need to sometimes cooperate. I'm just using the co-creation, but not only co-creation. Co-creation doesn't mean so much concrete. So that co-development, co-production, co-designing, co-engineering, whatever. So this is somehow we may be able to reduce the risks. On the other hand, we may have to admit that our profit may be reduced. But considering that big risk, which is surely much more risky than what we are able to expect the profit. So that from now on, for the future, I think that how we can minimize the risk crisis would be more important. So this is something which I need to list it up here. And the second item is that licensing. This is one of the example under the definition of co-creation. Some of the students may remember what I was talking about, the VTR war. Do you understand VTR, video tape recorder, which happened at about 30 years back? Sony is our first developer. Their technology is called beta system. And the second developer was JVC and Panasonic. They developed VHS system. And at the beginning, Sony was winning that market, but later on, Panasonic JVC won the game. Do you remember why?
Уважаемые участники, особенно слушатели магистратуры, которые присутствовали на уроке мистера Тойошимы, был вопрос, помните ли вы с лекции, которые он давал, в чем была разница, почему компания Panasonic, она обыграла компанию Sony в производстве видеооборудования? В чем было преимущество компании Panasonic над компанией Sony? No answer.
Okay, and
sorry, there is an answer because it was at less price, it was more convenient, and it was handy, and the quality was better.
Yeah, that's also correct answer. But one more important answer here should
There is-
be.
There is one more, maybe. VHS became more popular.
Why they became popular?
Let's wait for some answers. Okay, there is an answer. Marketing.
How do they market?
Less price, industry standards. There are the answers I'm listing.
Okay.
Long time record. And VHS became industry standard.
Okay, now that there's one more very correct answer here. That is Sony was too proud of their technology beta, so that they hesitate to grant a license of their technologies. In other words, Sony want to be only one player who can design, who can manufacture video. But Panasonic, JVC love to license. They want to make a big family of the group. So as a result of their decision, what happens? Oh, they can create a big market. What about Sony? Sony stay alone. How can they create a big market? So that's a very important point to grow the market. It's clear?
I think it is that the advantage of the Panasonic was that it licensed its GVC, right?
Please understand that the JVC is a part of the Panasonic group. So that the JVC Panasonic granted the license of
VHS.
video to Hitachi and Sharp, Sanyo, so many numbers of competitors. So now that thereafter, many of the companies can start to manufacture video, market video. But the most of player was a VHS family, which means Panasonic and JVC families, not Sony. So Sony lost that business of video.
Okay, there is one question. To be the only player is not good. You mean, what about Apple?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, Apple is doing all right, unlike Sony of a video. But the circumstance or idea, philosophy would be the same. Maybe Apple's case, what Apple is a little bit different from Sony is that Apple's technology is much higher than Sony video. So that no one can create that, how to say, exactly same technology as Apple developed. And more people, I mean in public, would like to have Apple because Apple technology has much more advantages, which they cannot enjoy if they bought the products from Dell or IBM or whatever. But as you can see, as a result of such decision, Microsoft also enjoyed that market and its business. But market share which Apple get is not small. But in case of Sony, their market share was very, very limited, small. So that's a difference. So it really depends on the case by case. But very fortunately, Apple's technology is not like Sony's video. There are so many number of fans or consumers who really love Apple's technologies. Do you understand? It's clear?
Yeah. I think it is.
Okay.
No comments.
Okay.
Yeah, you may continue.
So number 3 is that to maintain global supply chain. And nowadays, many top people, even top people like USA, they say that, oh, we shouldn't go for globalization any longer. America should come first. So that it sounds like that they don't like that the supply chain, which goes to all over the world. So that President Trump may like to have every part of the production, engineering in the United States. But do you think it works? It's good for everybody in this world? That's a question to you.
Уважаемые участники, наверное, все поняли вопрос. Хорошо ли, как Америка, да, не используя всемирную цепочку поставок, иметь производство только у себя в стране и все, остановиться только на этом? Или же наоборот, нужно более глобализироваться? The answer is no.
I think there is an answer.
It's actually, yes. Well, what I would like to say about this is that so far what I've heard is that they're actually now speaking about deglobalizations in terms of bringing big production of critical medical supplies, of pharmaceutical products, of medical equipment, and all of this related to critical supplies and products and services. Mm-hmm. However, some of the basic products such as clothes and electronics would still obviously be produced elsewhere. However, quite strongly diversified away from China alone as one of the primary market for focusing the supply chain. So that there will be a drastic diversification away from the Chinese market to many of the other countries around the Asian continent. The Central Asia and Uzbekistan in particular would be one of the parts that could be joined as a platform for supply chain. So there will be a diversification away from China, but not fully waning away of globalizations in terms of taking everything back to the United States or to Europe.
Okay, thank you for comments. I like that comment. Actually, that today, like color TV, no one manufactured in the States, but no one in the States care, right? It's all imported from China or Southeast Asia. Even Japan, that it's a quite limited number of TV has been manufactured, except those products which are very, very critical, or even that the critical components, parts, materials, which might be locally manufactured because it's a critical part. So that's something which we have to carefully consider before start the global supply chain. But also that what I am trying to say here is that this corona issue has been very, very globalized. But you may recall that case of SARS. It's not globalized. It's China and the neighboring countries. So that the issue which we need to keep in our mind is that we may have 2 or 3 options all the time in our future direction. In case China has some trouble, we may not be able to use that facility in China, but we may have another route for supply chain somewhere in Central Asia or Southeast Asia. That would be another option which let us survive and let us continue the business. So that's something. And item 4, support for specific purpose. And this is rather realistic in a daily operation. As we look at some of the companies in the States and some of the companies even in Japan, they decided to reschedule that payment so that our supplier may survive. And as I told you at the beginning, cooperation, co-creation is much more important from now on, because only one company cannot enjoy the business, and only one company cannot survive. We need many players who enjoy the business in the same field at the same time. And another example is that as a CSR, corporate social responsibilities, we may need to donate for developing vaccine or something else. So those are some of the issues which we may reconsider from now on. Okay, any questions, comments so far on this page?
Есть ли комментарии или вопросы, уважаемые участники? No.
Okay.
I think everything is clear.
Okay, next page. Oh. Okay, next page is that managerial change, which we need to carefully consider. But precondition, as I pointed out in the top line, there's no way to prevent disasters. We need to accept anyway. So I listed up the 8 issues which we may consider from now on. Number 1, self-interest supremacy doctrine. Another easy word, profit first. It's always pushing from the shareholders. Of course, there is another type of shareholders who don't care much about the profit itself. But I would say majority of the shareholders today more than love the profit. So that top management accordingly do any type of efforts just in order to maximize profit, which may goes to maximization of the dividend. That's what the shareholders used to think about. And the second point, shareholders first. In the market, all the shareholders say, oh, we should come first. We should be prioritized. So as I mentioned before, that besides the shareholders, there's employees, top management, supplier, banking, vendors, blah, blah, blah. So what are those relations should be like later on? And especially those people, I mean, shareholders who would like to prioritize the maximization of the profit, looking at the short-sighted, right? So shall we go the next, number 3, equity. Everybody understand that equity, right? Capital plus accumulated profit. And what I'm saying is that the amount of equity should be bigger size. And the equity ratio, which means equity to total asset, have to be bigger. Do you guys remember that when we analyze that the company, there are 3 aspects, right? First one is that the profitabilities. Someone still remember that what's the another 2 guidelines to evaluate the company from the financial performance?
Многие из вас, наверное, знают, и многие помнят, слушатели, с какими 3 способами, инструментами можем анализировать компанию. Первый — это прибыльность, а остальные 2 пункта. So there are answers: gearing and ROE, return on equity, financial stability, market growth.
Yeah, it's
Safety.
something. What?
Someone says safety, return on assets, ratios.
Just before talking about the ratio, I was teaching that the 3 major performance guidelines. First one is the profit ratio, or profitabilities. Second one is that efficiency. Third one is safety. So, for example, ROE, return on equity, is at under the guideline of efficiency, because this is coming from the idea of shareholder. They wanna invest rather small of money, but they want to maximize their return. So that's efficiency. So for a long period of time in the past, shareholders was really eager to look at the ROE. But today, like after this type of disaster, what was the biggest issues? Many of the companies are shortage of the cash and the equities. So as I pointed out at the next item, number 4, so many people say cash is king. You guys may remember, even if the one company is very, very profitable, but without small amount of cash, they are easily bankrupt. So that cash is king. So that we may have to review our financial status once again, how to make our company more healthy and safety. That's issues. And number 5, as I mentioned already before, globalization should continue. If we do everything here in this one country, United States, Japan, Uzbekistan, or which may let us manufacture everything, right? It's ridiculous. And what about the price of the cost? Oh, it's gonna be quite high. Looking at the Apple's iPhone and tablet, they are all mainly manufactured in China, partly in Indonesia, partly in Vietnam. So top management Apple's was thinking that which region is at the most economical place to manufacture. So that combination is at one of the biggest know-how to win the game in the market, so that we shouldn't go back to the very, very original position where we may want to manufacture everything in locally, but it's wrong. We have to be efficient. We have to be smart. And next is at the 6, altruism. It's versus egoism. Egoism means that I think, you think for yourself, only yourself. You don't care the other people. You don't care the partners. You don't care customers. You just like to be happy by yourself, for yourself. You don't care the other people's happiness. But the time has been changing right now. And next, item 7, we should reconsider our values once again. And one of the examples here is that the ESG. I will explain to you details later on, but the ESG stands for environment, society, and governance. So this terminology is getting very, very popular and appreciated in the stock market. People don't appreciate that the company who ignore environment, society, and governance. So that as I pointed out before, more shareholders are fortunately getting to change themselves. They care not only profit, but also ESG. Because they are getting to understand that those companies who ignore ESG may not have a bright future. They know those companies may face a difficulty in the future. Number 8, SDG. Somebody understand SDG? What stands for?
Понимаете ли вы, что эта аббревиатура значит? SDG. No.
No.
Someone says no.
S stand for.
I think there is an answer.
There's answer.
Social development goals.
S stand for what?
Someone want to speak up? Social development goals, it's written in the chat.
Not social. Not social.
Sustainable development goals.
Yeah, sustainable is the right words. So that this has been developed and decided by the United Nations. Each got based upon this philosophy. Actually, that SDG have a 17 number of goals in order to keep this world healthy and happy. I also explain to you later on, but those are authorized by the United Nations, and each government adopted this philosophy. Can you see this?
Yes.
Видно?
Can you see this?
Yes, we can see the graph.
Okay. This is a little bit confusing, but let me explain to you. It's regarding the equity issues, which I pointed out already. And there's a five different lines, right? And each line shows that a different ratio between equity and asset. As I mentioned here, equity asset ratio, but 80%, some company was 80% because that company's equity is over 80% to their assets. So as far as my common sense is concerned, that these companies are very, very healthy. They don't have much liabilities. And looking at the 60 to 80, which means that equity covers 60% to 80% out of total asset. So this is still very healthy. But unlike, look at the 20 to 40, or even less than 20, or those companies depends much on the liabilities, including bank loans or account payable. And looking at the left-hand side, a vertical line shows percentage, but looking at the 100% point here, all 5 lines starting from 100 in the year of 1999. Because the 100 is at the index of net income in 1999 for every company. But thereafter, many of the company record the profit, net profit, bigger than before. Usually that as far as the market grows, the company grows, profit may have a much possibility to grow. So this is a graph which shows that each category of the companies, how they did grow. So who is at the most excellent range of the companies? looks like 60 to 80 range of the companies is showing that the highest ratio of the net income.
Можно ответить?
Да.
It's clear?
Да, здесь получается критически это 40 на 60, который, потому что если ниже, получается у них увеличивается обязательства, да, это получается очень критически для любой компании. Если больше 60%, то компания, это значит, что работает в нормальном режиме, а если уже от 80%, это получается очень устойчивая компания, так как у него меньше обязательства, чем то, что они имеют, то есть активы. Это получается критическая точка, это вот третья, до 60%. Вот по нашей стране, если по республике, недавно определили, это на районе от 55 до 60%. То есть критический момент лучше немножко больше активов, чем обязательства. То есть получается больше 60%. В нашем случае то два вышеуказанных вариантов, то есть от 80 и от 60, это является стабильным. Не только для нас, вообще во всем мире. Спасибо.
There was a comment regarding these indicators. So as he says, this from 40 to 60%, this is a critical point to any companies, organizations, and if it is below 40%, then the liabilities they rise. When it is 60%, then it is considered to be like normal situation, and if it is above 80%, then there are less liabilities, and it is very good. As for the situation in Uzbekistan, it was like calculated that the indicator is about 55 to 60% now.
It's normally for our economy.
And Begzot, you may remember in our class that I was telling you that in this ratio should be quite changeable depending on the countries and the size of the market, nature of the products of business they are doing. But
Yes.
if I look at the only market of Japan as a whole, the preferable percentage would be 35% and over. So that here again, it's not only Japanese companies, but 60 to 80 is a quite stable ratio. And maybe on the other hand, 80% should be better, but here it's not so good, right? Worse than the 60 to 80. Maybe one of the reasons which I am just guessing is that if the equity ratio is too high, they don't like to invest the money. I think that's a reason behind, maybe. I'm not sure. But anyway, 60 to 80% would show that most profitable trend in comparison with the other companies. Thank you.
Yeah, you may continue, please.
Any questions on this page?
No.
Okay. And this is a sustainable development goals, 17 goals. And you may see details somewhere in the internet or something, but just looking at some of those key issues, like no poverty, zero hunger, and there's a number 3, good health and well-being, social welfare. So this time, Corona issues is maybe covered under these categories, so that the United Nations already consider that importance, which should be able to help the people for the good health and welfares. And also that the development of a new vaccine would be one of those issues to be executed. And the others, quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitization, and affordable and clean energies. And those are the issues which many of our companies in this world are supposed to be requested to adopt as one of the targets and values of those companies. And this is the explanation of ESG, environment, social, society, and governance. And this is again that based upon that SDG, the stock market, and also that investors are believing those are categories which they are supposed to, or they would like to assess each companies which they may want to invest. And this is the last page. Sorry for the Japanese language, but with my capacity, with my capabilities, I couldn't change to that English. So just let me point it out what that means. There are gray bar and the blue bar. Gray bar means year over 2012. Blue bar means 2014. And the horizontal line shows that the name of the regions. The right-hand side, Europe, EU. Second, USA. Third one, Canada. Fourth one, Australia and New Zealand. And the last one, most left-hand side or right-hand side, Asian countries. And the vertical line shows that $1 trillion. That is the amount of ESG investment. So you can now understand Europe and America is quite advanced. They invest a lot, while the other regions, including Asia, it's almost nothing, right? So this is something which we are supposed to go ahead in order to stabilize the business and to attract the shareholders and so on. Okay, that's all what I need to talk about today. And is there any questions so far? Any questions?
Это был последний слайд лекции, предоставленный мистером Тойошимой. Есть ли у вас вопросы по презентации? There is a comment. This coronavirus takes an influence for quality education, climate action. Here, this illness is in the center of these items you mentioned. So how could we control in future in a daily basis?
How to control the disasters or
Yeah,
view?
the
Both?
situation that such kind of viruses or some pandemia maybe brings.
Because that, as you can imagine that there is a limitation how of our capabilities to control those disasters and the pandemic, right? And even we learned a lot in past history how to cope with that MERS, how to cope with that SARS in the past in China. And today we have this type of very, very new, maybe strongest virus is coming in. And as some academic guy forecast expected that this type of new virus would be able to come in our market sometime in the future. And it's now realized. Because if we look at what we are doing every day today, we are, how to say, in a sense, invading the very, very primitive market, new market. Sometimes some people wanted to damage our nature. So that there used to be a big borderline between wild nature and a human being. But that border may be getting disappear. So that this nature also that how to say, kind of allocation of nature by nature would be changing. So even at the new virus, which our people never imagined, may appear all of a sudden. So that we have to invest any type of the technology, equipment for R&D, but we are stupid human beings. We don't want to spend the money for that type of disaster because no one knows, no one guarantee it will come. But it happened. So that now that the shareholder is getting to change their mind, this type of R&D or investment for this type of new technology, new R&D would be needed. So those type of contribution to be made by the company would be appreciated by those possible shareholders from now on. So, for example, even my company, Hitachi, are not specialized in this field, but we need to contribute something for developing this new technology or R&D. And even other small company may not related to those new vaccine or new equipment at all, but they need to be careful what they should do if some disaster happens, like how to protect their performance in a financial aspect. As I pointed out today, we need enrich the amount of the equity, also cash. Unless otherwise, we need to fire the employees just 1 minute, right? It will not be stabilizing that the society. Even such one company might be survive, but what about society? Company and society have to survive together. It shouldn't be separated. So it's not, we don't have a perfect answer here today, but it's possible to consider how to protect ourselves if something happens, and how we can contribute to that disaster.
There is one more question, if you don't mind. What kind of help are rendered to Japanese people by Japan government during this difficult pandemic time? What was the financial amount of help for every citizen?
Maybe he or she may know it, but just a few days back that the Japanese government decided to deliver 1,000 US dollars, about 1,000 US dollars to everyone who registered in Japan. But besides, the government is also eager to deliver the more financial support to that business companies, depending on that how difficult situation they are. Maybe 10,000 US dollars up to 300. 10,000 to 30,000 US dollars per company.
Wow. Okay, there is one more comment from Shirin. No question. Thank you very much, Mr. Toyoshima. It was very informative lecture.
Thank you for your attendance.
Are there any other questions?
Слышно?
Да-да.
У меня такой вопрос. Спасибо, во-первых, очень интересную лекцию. И такой вопрос. Реализуется очень много инвестиционных проектов, где рассматриваются все пункты поставки, доставки грузов и необходимых материалов и так далее. В случаях пандемии, получается, то есть во всех проектах имеются риски. А немногие компании именно рассматривают такие моменты, как распространение, допустим, вируса, а там рассматривается вопрос форс-мажора, допустим, да, стихийные бедствия, но не рассматриваются именно такие ситуации. А как в дальнейшем быть в таких случаях, просто его мнение, конечно, быть компаниям, чтобы хотя бы мягко пройти через этот, скажем, период пандемии, да, чтобы не страдала и компания, и инвесторы, и поставщики. Вот такой вопрос. Если поняли, спасибо за внимание.
Okay, I'll try to translate. So nowadays there are many different investment projects, and where in detail the aspects and all points are mentioned, and also the all risks in these projects are considered, right? But for example, these natural disasters and so on, but not each company consider maybe this and keep this. And but this is maybe the first time when such kind of pandemic could like intervene the process of the many projects that are being done, and how the company should overcome this smoothly in order not to bring so much damage for the shareholders, investors, and customers, and so on. How to avoid this risk?
It depends on the scale of the negative impact, as you can imagine. But if we pick up that this case of pandemic of corona, I think that government financial support is absolutely needed. And there are many numbers of the small size, medium size companies are doing business anywhere. And as I mentioned today, I said we should enrich our equity, cash. But those small companies, medium-sized companies cannot do it with their capacity. They just need just picking up the small restaurants. They may have only 5 to 10 customers every day, and without their payment in a cash, the restaurants are not allowed to buy or procure the raw materials for cooking next day, right? So that what I was thinking regarding that possible support from financial support from the government should be at minimum focused on that how to say a fixed expenses like house rent fee and so on, and also wages for employees for this coming 3 months, 4 months. So that is something which we need to support from the government. And besides, what we by ourselves should be able to do is another issues. And regarding this, what I pointed out before, we need to have a healthy financial conditions, and it's worthwhile to review our financial status once again. And there is I believe there are something to be improved and to be desired. Like I know that many of the companies may need more amount of the cash in our hand, which makes our performance every day quite flexible. If we have a small amount of cash, we cannot do anything. We cannot pay the salaries. We cannot pay for the procuring the materials and so on. So that's something which we need to review carefully. How to protect ourselves once those disaster happens. It's not, maybe I should give you that more concrete proposal to you once you gave me that what your companies are doing and what are the financial conditions are formed right away. Did I answer the question?
Все ли понятно? Кто спрашивал вопрос? Смог ли мистер Тойошима полноценно ответить на ваш вопрос? There is maybe one more question, the last one. It's written in Russian. I will translate. Is it possible to include such kind of virus pandemic into the contract agreement as a force majeure circumstance?
Yeah, sure.
Ответ на вопрос para
You
force
take us
majeure.
down.
Okay, you may continue.
Usually any type of a contract, license agreement, purchase agreement, rent agreement, whatever, usually include that kind of disaster in a scope of force majeure. But the challenge is both parties understand and agree that, oh, it's a part of the force majeure, but how to cope with that? Once again, you need negotiations with the other party. That's not easy issue. How to compromise each other.
Thank you. So there is a comment. We're so grateful with the meaningful and informative online lecture of Mr. Tойошима. We got a lot of useful information in the field of corporate governance. Thank you, Mr. Tойошиma. We're waiting for you with incredible impatience.
Thank you for your waiting.
Are there any other comments, questions? No. I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you for joining, even on Saturday.
Спасибо за то, что присоединились даже в субботу. Спасибо всем за внимание.